we'll go to our mats. We can think about our intentions that we would like to set during our yoga practice today. Whatever intention is speaking to you is perfectly fine. Let's find our way to a comfortable laying down position. Of course, if laying down for you is not comfortable, you can always begin your yoga practice in a seat. Just find somewhere, a place of stillness. Feeling the ground underneath you. If you're laying down, you can feel the ground all along, spots on your spine and your legs. If you're in a seat, maybe you feel those connection spots under your legs, your feet. Just letting yourself sink into the ground for a minute and bringing your awareness to this moment. Here and now. And starting to focus on the breath. And today we can practice our Ujjayi breath if you'd like to join me. The Ujjayi breath Ujjayi means victorious in Sanskrit. And I was always taught that the victory is over the incessant chatter of the mind, pushing away all other thoughts of the outside world with the breath and allowing your breath to come to the forefront of your mind. The Ujjayi breath is a really nice loud breath inside your throat. And to find the Ujjayi breath, we seal our lips and begin to breathe in and out of the nose. Nice, long, slow, full, deep breaths. If you're stuffed up today and you can't breathe in and out of your nose, of course, breathing through your mouth is the way to go. But if you'd like to join me in the Ujjayi breath, breathing in out of the nose, just start to constrict your throat just a little bit. Almost as if you're fogging up a mirror, sort of a ha sound in the back of the throat, so that you can really hear your breath nice and loud inside of your head. Stretching your breath out as much as possible. With each inhale, imagine that your breath is filling up your mind, filling up your body. Feel the breath come all the way down to the tips of your fingers. Breathe in so deeply you can feel it in your toes. Just being here in this moment, present inside of your body. And now, continuing with the Ujjayi breath, just do a little body scan here, a quick check-in. I think of my yoga practice, my daily practice, as a chance to check in with my body, but at the beginning of our practice, it's also good to actively run your awareness throughout your body, looking for any areas that you might want to give extra attention to today. Maybe you're feeling like you'd really like to stretch out your legs. Or maybe there's some areas that are bothering you, injuries, sore spots that you want to be extra careful of. You might need to make some modifications or change certain poses to make them right for your body. And here's a chance to find any of those spots. Checking in with your energy level, just seeing how you feel today. And once you've gone through your whole body, come back to your breath, taking some deeper inhales and exhales. Just being here inside of your body. Blinking your eyes open, drawing the knees into the chest, coming into cannonball, wrapping the arms around the legs. Take a deep breath in here. And as you exhale, curling up into a ball, lifting your forehead to your knees and squeezing everything tight together. Release, inhale, big good morning stretch, lifting the hands up overhead, stretching the legs out long. And as you begin to exhale, coming back into a ball, drawing the knees to the chest, wrapping the arms and lifting the forehead up. Release your head back down. One more time. Big good morning stretch. Big breath in. And exhale back into cannonball. Let your head come back down to the mat. Bringing hands to the kneecaps. Making some gentle circles here. Waking up the lower back. Feeling all those points of contact that your back is making with the earth. And finding circles going both directions. Coming back to center, we'll just do a one-legged supine twist here. So we're going to keep one knee up to our chest. Holding onto that knee, let the other leg slide back down to its spot on the mat. And we're going to cross this knee over the body, rolling onto the side, rolling onto the hip. You can drop that foot down. Your foot's probably going to touch the ground, but that knee probably won't come all the way down to the ground. And you can tuck your hand inside the crease of the knee just to help it stay there. Other hand is stretching out to the side. And then gently start to turn your head over to that opposite hand. Doesn't need to be all the way turned. We're just looking to complete the twist here. See where you feel this twist. Maybe you feel it somewhere in your leg, your spine, your arm. And let's release and try the other side, bringing that knee back into the chest. Other leg comes to join it and switch sides. First leg slides back down to its spot on the mat. This knee comes crossing over the body. You can roll onto your hip. Let that foot drop down. Fingertips can tuck in the crease of that knee. Opposite arm stretching out to the side. And then start to turn your gaze over to your opposite hand to complete your twist. Noticing it again where you feel this twist. Maybe making a note if there's different spots you feel it on one side or the other, or even if you feel them in the same spots, just noting where that spot is. And release. Coming back to center, this time holding on to your knees with one hand each. And you can start to pull your knees in towards your armpits. If you like, you can do some circles again, or you could just stay in that curled up position, getting a stretch in the hips, and see if you can push your hips back down to the ground here. And then release your hands, tucking the fingertips inside the creases of both knees. Rock and roll forward and back along the spine. A few times you can go with your breath here, inhaling as you come up and taking a deep breath out as you come back down again. Making your way up to a seat. Finding any comfortable cross-legged position here with the feet open or tucking the feet underneath the knees. And then a big stretch with the hands up overhead. Take a deep breath in, stretch your spine up really tall. Look up, bring the hands together. And as you breathe out, fold forward, hands come through heart center, releasing the fingertips down to the ground. Try to keep the spine really long as you go down, only going as far as you feel comfortable. And whenever you find your edge, just relax into that fold. You can round your back out. Fingertips can be tented on the ground, or you can just lay your hands flat on the ground, let your elbows come to rest on the ground. And take a couple big, full, deep breaths here. Now, keeping your chest really low to the ground, or as low as it already is, walk the fingertips over to the right. Maybe you notice a side stretch on the left side there, from the armpit all the way down to the hip. And then walking the hands all the way over to the left. Maybe noticing a stretch along your right side from the armpit all the way to the hip. And coming back to center. Inhale, lifting back up to a seat. Resting the hands in the lap and doing some gentle neck rolls. So these don't need to be perfect circles. They can be kind of blob-shaped movements. If you have a tender spot in your neck, it might not feel as good to stretch so much in that spot. Go nice and slow here, just noticing what's happening in your neck today. And whenever you like switching directions, finding circles the other way. Maybe seeing if there's different spots here that feel tight. Coming back up to center and making our way into a twist. Breathing in to lift the hands up, stretching the spine up tall. Look up, bring the hands together. Exhale, twisting around one side. One hand comes behind, other hand crossing over the opposite knee. So you can go in and out with your breath here as you breathe in, sitting up a little bit taller. And on the exhale, going deeper into the twist, bending the elbows, peeking over the back shoulder. Inhale, lengthening the spine, coming out of the twist just a little bit. And exhale, deepening back into the twist. One more time, just go with your breath. And on your next breath in, release, come back to center, float the hands all the way up overhead. Exhale, twisting around the other way. Other hand comes behind. This hand crossing over the opposite knee, going in and out with the breath, sitting up tall as you breathe in. Exhaling, deepening into the twist. So when we're lifting up and lengthening the spine, we're making room for our lungs to expand. And as we breathe out, we're taking advantage of that extra space to come deeper into the twist. One more time, lifting up on the inhale, going deeper on the exhale. Release, coming back to center, floating the hands up overhead, stretching the spine up really tall. Exhale, side stretch, planting one hand on the ground, opposite arm arcing overhead, and leaning down towards that hand, maybe walking the fingers out, maybe bending and straightening the elbow. On the breath and coming back to center, float the hands up overhead. Exhale down the other way, other hand coming down, walking the fingers out if that feels nice. Upper arm arcing overhead. And noticing how that feels all along that open side there. Inhale, coming back to center, stretching the spine up really tall. Exhale, hands in the lap. Let's switch our legs here. Front leg coming to the back leg pushing out in front. So this is the awkward way. And if you like, you may not be used to crossing your legs the awkward way here. So maybe your stance here is a little bit more open, widening the legs. That's always okay. Remember that our sides are not symmetrical. Sometimes our left and right legs have different needs. Our left and right arms might have different needs, even our spine. So if you want to adjust your position here and it doesn't quite look like it did on the other side, that's totally okay. And then let's fold forward again. Big breath in to float the hands up. On the exhale, pulling the hands through heart center, keeping the spine really long, releasing the fingertips down. And then crawling the hands forward, only coming down as far as you feel comfortable, relaxing into the fold once you find your edge, and letting your head and neck come down. Perhaps the elbows drop down. If you can think back to how this pose felt with your legs crossed the other way, maybe there's a chance here to notice some differences between your right and left sides. Noticing where this pose is landing in your body. Inhale, lifting back up to a seat. And releasing the hands down to the knees for a little seated cat-cow. Little spinal warm-up here on the breath and rolling the shoulders down, arching the back and leaning the head back to peek up at the sky. As you breathe out, pushing the spine out behind you, start from the very bottom of the spine and work your way up to your head and neck. Keep going like this. See if you can notice any individual vertebrae here. And also tying your movement to your breath. Find a rhythm that really works for your body. Yoga is such a individual practice. It gives us all the opportunity to listen to our bodies, respond to our own needs, move at our own pace, and honor where it is that we are in every moment, acknowledging that every single day is different. Every single day, our body's needs change just a little bit. On your next breath in, come back to a neutral spine. Let's try our twist and our side stretch here, starting on the opposite side this time. Big breath in, lifting the hands up. Exhale, twisting around to one side, one hand coming behind, other hand crossing over the knee. Big breath in to lengthen the spine. On the breath out, bending the elbows and deepening into the twist. 2 more breaths here, going in and out with your breath. Just moving at your own pace. And going only as deeply as your body is ready to go today. Inhale, release, coming back to center, floating the hands up. On the exhale, twisting around the other way. Other hand comes behind, this hand crossing over the knee. Moving with the breath, lengthening to breathe in. Exhale, take advantage of that space you're creating as you breathe out. One last breath in and out. And on your next inhale, coming back up to center, floating the hands up. Exhale, side stretch, planting that first hand down on the ground, opposite arm arcing overhead. Maybe walking the fingers out or bending and straightening the elbows, another option. If you want to find a little movement here and explore your range of motion. On the next inhale, coming back to center, floating the hands up. Exhale down the other way. Back to center, breathing in. Exhale, hands in the lap. All right, making our way to hands and knees, tabletop here. Planting the hands, rolling over the knees, or swing the legs around to one side. Today, let's do some crunches. So you can do these just with the leg, or you can include your arm as well. Lining up the shoulders over the wrists, knees come right underneath the hips. And then one leg comes up. Option to lift the opposite arm as well. Take a deep breath in. On the exhale, elbow to knee, or if your hand is on the ground, just bring your knee to your nose. 2 more. Inhale, stretching it out long. Exhale, coming into the crunch. Last one with the breath. Inhale to lengthen. And exhale, release. Switching sides. Other leg comes up. Pushing through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. Maybe the opposite arm comes up as well. Big breath in here. Exhale, elbow to knee or knee to nose. 2 more. Just go with your breath. Stretching out your breath. And stretching out the motion to match your breath. Inhale, stretching it out long. And exhale, release back to the mat. And then let's come to child's pose, pushing the hips back to the heels. You can put some space between the knees. Big toes come together to touch, and the forehead can rest on the mat. Letting your elbows rest on the mat. Just take a couple big deep breaths here. Crunches can sometimes raise your heart rate, speed up your breathing. See what sensations you notice right now in your body associated with the breath. And see if you can stretch the breath out, coming back to that nice, full, deep breath. On your next breath in, push yourself back up. Let's do a little toe stretch here. With your hands on the ground, you can tuck your toes under, putting some space between the feet, and then gently start to push your hips back to your heels. So you can leave your hands on the ground if that already feels like enough of a toe stretch here. You can really regulate how much pressure is going back onto the toes with your hips. And if it feels good to you, you can also come all the way up to a seat, just sitting back on the heels. It might be too intense, and you can always keep the hands on the ground. Stretching out the bottom of the feet, stretching out the toes. And then release, planting the hands back on the mat, untuck the toes, and tap the tops of the feet on the ground. And let's make our way all the way up to standing. Take a moment to adjust your clothing. It can get a little messed up sometimes when we're laying down or seated. So make sure you feel really comfortable here. And let's make our way into our Tadasana pose, mountain pose. 2 choices, big toes together to touch with about 1.5 inches between the heels, or feet on 2 different train tracks, kind of lined up right underneath your hips. Big forward fold on the inhale, floating the hands up. Exhale, bending the knees, hinging from the hips, keeping the spine long, and relaxing the upper body down. Take a couple breaths here. You can keep a bend in your knees if that feels good. They never need to be pushed all the way back towards straight. In fact, if you're pushing the knees back straight so much, you do have the possibility of cutting off your circulation from your legs, so you never want to push them back too much. And let's rise up to standing, bending the knees, letting the arms dangle down, and stacking the vertebrae one at a time on a breath in. Let's try that one more time. Inhale to come up. Exhale, diving from the hips, bending the knees, relaxing the upper body down. Just take a couple of deep breaths here. And on your next breath in, with bent knees, slowly unroll the spine. Exhale, mountain pose, stretching the spine up tall, pushing the shoulders down the back, bringing some awareness into the hands, and really grounding into your feet. You can rock back and forth and feel all the points of contact your feet make with the earth. And then find some stillness, rooting down through the feet, standing up as tall as you can, keeping the knees soft. Close your eyes for a minute. Taking a couple deep breaths here. Blinking the eyes open, making our way to our warrior poses. I like to have my hands on my hips to set up my legs. One foot is going to stretch back, other foot coming forward. Front foot, toes pointing straight towards the short end of the mat. Back foot, toes pointing towards the long end. And we can line up our heel right with the center of the back foot or the back heel and make sure the spine is right above the hips. Stretching the spine up tall. And then bring the arms up, bringing the gaze to the front middle finger. Yoga jumping jacks. Just go with your breath at your own pace. On the breath in, straightening out the front knee, bringing the hands up overhead. Exhale, bending the knee and lowering back down to warrior 2. So the goal here is to have a constant slow motion at the pace of your breath. Everybody moves at a different pace because everybody breathes at their own rate. Listening to your breath. And meeting back down in warrior 2. Let's try a couple other warrior poses here. On our next breath in, coming to reverse warrior, back hand dropping down on the back leg. Top hand stretching out overhead and then arcing like a rainbow. And then if you like, you can wrap your back hand behind you, bringing the fingers toward the front hip. One more big breath in here. On the exhale, keep the legs the same. Windmill the arms around, drop that front elbow to the front knee, and stretch the upper arm overhead. Imagine that you're making a straight line from your top middle finger all the way through the back heel. So it doesn't need to be perfect. We're just bringing ourselves as close as we can into that straight line there. 2 more times going with the breath. Inhale, coming up to reverse warrior. Exhale, back down again to extended side angle. And last one at your own pace. Inhale, rising back up to warrior two. Drop the hands to the hips. Step that back foot up to the front of the mat and shake it all out. And then switch sides. Other foot comes back. Front toes pointing straight forward. Back toes toward that long edge of the mat. Bringing the arms up. Making sure the spine is centered over the hips and that back hand is nice and high. And then bringing the gaze right back to the front middle finger. Moving with the breath. 5 yoga jumping jacks. Inhale, knee straight, hands up. Exhale, bending the knee, lowering back down. Just go with your breath. Moving faster or slower, depending on whatever your breath is doing right now. Last one, coming up on the breath in. And exhaling back down to warrior two. And then finding our other warrior positions. On the inhale, reverse warrior, legs stay the same. Top arm is arcing overhead like a rainbow. Back hand stretching down the back leg or wrapping back behind, reaching towards the front hip. One more big breath in. On the exhale, keep your legs the same and windmill your arms around to drop the front elbow on the front knee and stretch that upper arm overhead. Straight line from the top middle finger through the back heel. 2 more times going with your breath. Last one. Rising up to warrior two on a breath in. And then release. Drop the hands to the hips. Step the foot up to the front. Shake it all out. And let's find our way to a seat. Taking a little seated breath break here. However you want to get there. You can rest in with your legs in easy pose, or you can have your legs open if you like. You can also rest in easy pose with your legs crossed the awkward way, just to give your body a minute to get used to this different folding of the legs. And then you can rock side to side, back and forth, close your eyes. Find a comfortable place of stillness, or you can even keep rocking back and forth if you don't feel like being still right now. It's always an option. Checking in with the breath. One of the things that yoga offers us is an opportunity to practice raising our energy level and bringing it back down again. And when we practice this sort of a thing, then it's there for us in our time of need. When we're feeling agitated, or when we're in a situation where we might be frustrated and we feel our energy level rising up, we can fall back on this practice and take some deep breaths and help our body to come back down again. Stretching out your exhale specifically helps to calm the body down. So see if you can really take that exhale to a nice long breath. Breathing out of the nose helps to stretch that breath out. And let's blink our eyes open, make our way back up to standing, and try some balancing poses. Today we're going to put 3 of our poses together. We're going to start with a tree pose, and we'll move to a one-legged chair pose, and then we'll come into warrior 3. So we'll start just by coming into tree pose. One leg, all the weight comes to one leg, and the opposite leg, knee is pointing straight out to the side. Any foot placement you would like here, down on the ground, heel right underneath the knee, or all the way up on the thigh. If you like, you can include your arms. One more deep breath in and out. On your next breath in, bring your hands down to heart center. And as you breathe out, cross your ankle over your knee. Start to bend your standing leg and sit low in your chair so you can hinge forward from the hips. Bringing the upper body forward helps a little bit with the balance. And on your next inhale, release. Lift that knee up and the arms overhead. As you breathe out, hinge forward from your hips, sending that foot out behind you, like you're stamping it into a wall. Arms come out wide like airplane wings. So if you're more at an angle like this, that's totally okay. Remember that yoga is all about the journey, not so much about the destination. Whew, I'm wobbly today. And let's come back up on a breath and lift the knee high and the arms up overhead. And then release and shake it out. Little standing break here, setting the hands on the upper legs. Feet come about hip width distance apart. Close your eyes. You can find some stillness here, or if you'd like to find some movement, a little rocking motion back and forth on the feet. Notice how your heart is beating. Notice your breath. And bringing awareness into the legs, see if you can notice any differences here between your right leg and your left. One of those legs was standing and taking all of our body's weight, and the other one had lots of different movements it was trying to make. So it would just make sense that you probably have some different sensations coming up to your brain from your legs right now. There's no right or wrong here. We're just gathering information about our bodies. Coming back to a calm place, bringing our breath back down and our energy level back down. And let's try the other side, blinking the eyes open, all weight coming to the other leg. This knee pointing straight out to the side. Same choices, toes on the ground, sole of the foot on the ankle. Heel underneath the knee, or all the way up on the thigh. Now, of course, it's always acceptable to take a different foot placement option from one side to the other. Maybe you have an old injury in your knee, maybe you stubbed your toe, whatever it is, remember that your body can have 2 different choices on the 2 different sides. And then, if you like, including the hands. One more deep breath in and out. On your next inhale, bring your hands to heart center. And as you breathe out, pop your ankle across your knee, sitting low in your chair. Flex these toes on that upper leg to help protect your knee. And you can lean forward, maybe even dropping the elbows down to that upper leg. And then rising up on an inhale, lifting the knee up and the arms overhead. Exhale, warrior 3, sending the foot straight out behind you like you're stamping it into a wall. Arms come out wide like airplane wings. Coming as close as you feel comfortable to bringing your body parallel to the ground. And then releasing on a breath in, lifting the knee up and the arms high. Exhale, shake it all out. Another standing break, just to notice how our sides are different or the same. Hands on the upper legs, closing the eyes, finding stillness, or maybe rocking gently back and forth on the feet. Send your awareness into your legs. Notice where those spots are, where you feel like you were just using your leg. I really feel it in my upper leg, on the leg that I was standing on. And also noticing your breath. If it feels smooth or maybe it feels broken. Noticing the texture, the temperature of the breath, and feeling your legs quickly coming back into balance. Blood pumping through your body. Pretty soon the legs start to feel almost the same again. Blink your eyes open, coming into Ragdoll Pose. Feet come about hip width distance apart. On the breath in, bringing the hands up. And as you breathe out, hinging from the hips, you can bend your knees a little bit, relax the upper body down, and then reach your hands out and grab onto opposite elbows. So you can gently rock side to side here by bending one knee at a time. Almost feels like you're shaking all the kinks right out of your spine. Letting gravity help your spine realign. Feel gravity pulling all those kinks right out. Release, drop the fingertips to the ground. Weight comes to the fingers, heel to the feet back together. And then bend the knees and rise back up to standing on a breath in. Exhale, mountain pose. Let's make our way into chair pose. This time, two-legged chair pose. Chair pose can be done with the big toes touching and some space between the heels, which is how it feels good for me. So I usually take that option. Another perfectly acceptable option is to have the feet underneath the hips. There's no right or wrong. It's just whichever one feels better to you. On a breath in, bringing the hands up. And as you breathe out, bending the knees and sitting back into your imaginary chair, pushing the hips down and back, wiggling the toes to bring the weight to the heels. You can lean your torso forward just a little bit here to help with the balance. Stretching the hands up, but keeping those shoulders pushing down the back, out of the ears. This is one of those poses where we start to feel a shaking. And I was taught that that shaking is helping your body to release pent up stress hormones. So they get out of you. You don't have to feel stressed out anymore. Just let all that stress come out. Take one more big breath in. And on the exhale, release. Push the knees back, relax the upper body down. Bring weight to the fingers, heel toe the feet out, back wide again. And come back into ragdoll, this time crossing your arms the awkward way. Gently rocking side to side by bending one knee at a time. Shaking all the kinks out. And then release. Weight comes to the fingers. Heel toe the feet back together again. We're going to bend our knees, plant our hands on the mat, and step back to a high plank, upper push-up. So you can stay here, or you can drop your knees down to the mat. We're just going to hold our plank for a couple big breaths here, building that upper body strength. Feel your core firing up. Take one more deep breath in. And on the exhale, come all the way down to your belly, taking a rest. We can stack our hands and rest our forehead on our stacked hands. Or we can rest on a cheek and then wrap the hands back behind towards the hips, palms facing up. Take a moment here to feel the mat underneath your body and feeling all the places your body is connected to the earth. We don't often lay on hard, flat surfaces on our belly. So this gives us a unique opportunity to really feel our breath in a different position. Feel how as you breathe in, your belly fills with air, your lungs fill with air, and your back pushes up to the sky. And maybe with the exhale, you feel a gentle release, everything gently coming back down to the earth. Bring your chin to the mat. Plant your hands right underneath your shoulders. And inhale, pushing your chest up, and then slide your hands forward. Bringing the elbows right underneath the shoulders. And this is called Sphinx pose here. You can stay right here. If this already feels like a nice back bend, that's what we're going for in this pose, is a little back bend. It's a pretty gentle one, but if you would like a little bit more action in the back, a little bit more of a back bend, you can start to straighten out your elbows. You don't need to bring them all the way straight, but you can if that feels good. And if it ever feels like too much pressure, just start to lower the elbows back down again. One more big breath in. And as you breathe out, if your elbows are lifted up, just drop them gently back to the mat. And then we're going to bring one hand at an angle in front of us, kick the opposite leg up. So I've got my left hand out and I'm kicking my right leg up, and then reach the same hand as that leg back and pull that leg in towards your hips. It might just be a tiny little bit. It might be a lot more. And let's release. Try the other side. Other arm comes out at an angle, kicking at the other leg, reaching back and pull that foot in towards your hips. It's so funny. This pose always makes me feel this stretch on my opposite side, right at my hip there. I think it's really interesting how some yoga poses, you'd think you might feel them in one place, but then you end up feeling them somewhere totally different. It also depends on your body. Everybody feels things in a different spot. And let's release, lowering all the way back down to the mat. Bring the chin to the mat and kick both feet up in the air. And then we're going to reach back and grab around both of our ankles. So if this already feels like enough, you can just stay there pulling the legs in. If you want a little bit more, you can start to lift your legs up off the mat, to peel the chest up off the mat. Keep your gaze really low at the ground in front of you to protect your neck here. One more big breath in. And exhale. Release. If your head was turned to one side, turn it to the other side. Or stack your hands and rest your forehead. Notice your breath. Noticing your energy level here. That last pose, bow pose, grabbing both the ankles can seem pretty intense. So maybe it raised your heart rate. Maybe it brought your breathing up a little bit. Just let that slow back down again. And let's bring our hands right underneath our shoulders. Inhale, pushing the chest up, making your way to a seat, and coming into boat pose. Start by just clasping the hands outside the knees, or you can hang on to one knee with each hand. Either way, bring awareness to the spine and lengthen the spine, stretching the spine up tall, pushing the shoulders down. Stay here, or if you want to fire up the core, get a little bit more core workout. You can tuck your fingers in the creases of both knees and lean back to float your feet. Again, staying here or releasing the hands out to the side. We're just going to hold this one. This is another one of those poses where you might start to feel a little shaking. Just tell yourself that's all of those yucky stress hormones leaving your body. One last big breath in and release. Drop the feet to the mat, putting some space between the feet. Hands come behind, fingers pointing towards the hips. Lean back on the hands and rock the knees side to side. And let's come all the way down to our backs. Back into Cannonball Pose, just like we begin. Knees to the chest, arms around the legs. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, lifting the head up to the knees and curling tight into a ball. Release your head back down to the mat. Bring your hands to your kneecaps and do some more of those gentle circles. See if you notice any change in how your lower back feels. If not, that's also okay. We're just gathering information about our bodies. And find circles going the other way. And then release, bringing the arms out wide in a T. This time we're going to do a two-legged supine twist, floating the legs up in a tabletop. Take a big breath in here. As you breathe out, drop the knees down to one side, keeping the knees together and keeping that 90-degree angle as much as you can. Doesn't need to be perfect though. Rolling onto one hip, fingers can tuck in the crease of the top knee, and gaze can come over to the opposite hand to complete your twist. Maybe you can think back to that first twist that we did just with the one leg. Maybe noticing differences here with both legs out. And then release. Drop that hand back out to the side. Inhale, lift the knees up to center. As you breathe out, dropping them down the other way, all the way to the ground. Fingertips can tuck in the crease of the top. Feels good. Comparison here, one versus the other, or maybe comparing how this feels to how our first twist felt with the one leg. And then release. Arm comes back out to the side. Inhale, knees up to center. Exhale, letting the legs come all the way down to the mat for our final resting position, Shavasana. Take a moment to adjust your clothing as needed. Whatever you need to do here to make yourself as comfortable as possible. Shavasana is traditionally taken on the back. But if that doesn't feel good to you, feel free to find whatever position is calling to you right now. Maybe a child's pose, maybe laying on your side, or maybe in a seat. Anywhere you can find a comfortable place of stillness, and then let yourself relax into your mat. Your full body just melting into the ground. All the tension flowing out of you. Release your breath. Let yourself come back to natural breathing. The breath is really amazing because we can control our breath and breathe intentionally, but as soon as we stop doing that, our natural instinct takes over and we just keep on breathing, even though we're not paying attention to it. And release your mind, just letting your thoughts come and go. Imagine that they're like little fishies swimming by you in a river. You see them and then they swim away and disappear to be replaced by something new. Find a few moments of stillness to complete your practice today. Blink your eyes open, making your way back up to a seat. Let's just do a couple more poses together to shake our yoga fog. Breathing in, floating the hands up. And exhale, folding forward over the legs, only as far down as you feel comfortable. Inhale back up, floating the hands up overhead. Exhale, side stretch. Back up to center to breathe in. And down the other way as you breathe out. Just getting our blood flowing again here after our little nap there, little yoga nap. Coming back to center on a breath in. Exhale, hands in the lap. Thank you all so much for joining me today for yoga.